in the COVID year of 2020. Not many runners, not many teams there, but Karen Wood of the University of Missouri ran a 23:54 to win that. And then our very first year, Thomas George of Missouri was the winner of the first Gans Creek Classic in 2019 with a 24:49. So over the last 3 years, the winners have all run right in the vicinity of 23:35 to 23:45, and we'll look forward to a time comparable to that, we would guess, from the field that we have this year in this men's Division I, 8,000 meters. Again, the gun will start us off at a 8 o'clock start. We've got 4 races this morning. This is the first of 3 sessions over the next 3 days, or 2 days, excuse me. 4 races this morning. We'll have 4 tonight. It'll be our first nighttime races of the Gans Creek Classic for the high schoolers, featuring elite divisions tonight. And then we'll start early tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and have our final 10 races for the high schoolers tomorrow, combining one weekend of the college and the high school in the Gans Creek Classic this year. Temperatures are in the low 60s right now. You will notice, if you have a view of the wind, the flags are showing us the wind direction coming from the north, so it's going to be a favorable on the start. This start area and finish area is the farthest north part of the course. As they make their run down the straightaway from the start line, they'll be reaching the furthest south point of the Gans Creek course. And on the second and third laps for the men, they'll be heading to the farthest east. If you can peek to the east and see the white lights flashing on the television tower for KOMU, which is an MU TV station, you'll see that's what they're running towards. They won't get that far, but they'll be running towards that tower on the 3K loop. Again, we welcome you. Thank you for being here. There is a merchandise tent that is near probably where you crossed into the area where you're going to be spectating if you're near the finish line. And there's also a concession stand and food trucks a little bit further north and east around the parking lot that is to our north and east of where we are at the finish area. Again, we're about 10 minutes away from the start, and we'll give you some of the team background as we get closer to the starter's gun of the Gans Creek Classic 2024 for the Division I men. And before we go any further, we want you to pause, if you would, at this time. The flag is flying just to the east of the finish line. We're going to honor America with our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, sung today by Ryan Stem. He is working at the University of Missouri, or at the VA hospital here in Columbia. This is Ryan Stem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ryan Stem, for leading us in our national anthem. And we are now less than 10 minutes away from the starter's gun for our first race today. We mentioned that we have 36 schools scheduled to be represented in this men's Division I 8K. They go from coast to coast. We have schools from Florida as well as from California and up to the state of Washington. Abilene Christian is here, currently ranked 14th in the South Central region. Auburn Tigers 5th in the Southern region. They'll be representing the SEC. Baylor Bears from the Big 12, 13th in the South Central. They are back on the course. They were at Gans Creek last year also. Central Arkansas Bears from the ASUN Conference. They were 6th in their conference a year ago. They come out of the South Central region. Creighton Blue Jays from the Big East are in the field. They come in having won the Platte River Rumble earlier this year. They are a returner to the Gans Creek Classic. Eastern Washington Eagles visit us for the first time from the Big Sky Conference. They were 5th in the Big Sky a year ago, finished runner-up in the Clash of the Inland Northwest this year. Florida Gators from the SEC come back to Columbia, 11th in the South region. As of the latest rankings, they were 7th in the SEC a year ago, 10th in the South region. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets from the ACC, 7th ranked in the South region. They're in the field. Illinois State Redbirds from the Missouri Valley Conference, ranked 13th in the Midwest region. Iowa Hawkeyes out of the Big Ten, also in the field. Kansas brings a team back to the Gans Creek. They're ranked 10th in the Midwest region, representing the Big 12. From the Summit League, Kansas City Roos come back to Gans. They're regular visitors here to Columbia for runs on this course. Kansas State Wildcats, they come back. They were 7th in the Gans last year. Kentucky Wildcats, 11th in the Southeast region, most recent rankings. They were 8th in the SEC last year. Lipscomb Bisons from the ASUN Conference, they're 8th in the South region. They've competed in the Belmont opener and the Trevecca opener. They were 3rd in the ASUN Conference last year. The Maine Black Bears come from the Northeast, representing the America East Conference. They're 15th ranked in the Northeast region. They have competed in 2 meets prior to this when they were runner-up in the America East last year. Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders from Conference USA ranked 13th in the South Conference. Missouri Tigers ranked 8th in the Midwest region. They're the host school. North Alabama Lions, another team from the ASUN, they're 15th in the South region at the latest rankings. Also from that conference, North Florida Osprey, they're regular visitors here and finished 2nd in the Gans Creek a year ago, currently ranked 10th in the South region. Northern Iowa Panthers from Missouri Valley Conference, they come back to the Gans. They were here last year, had a 44th place finisher, and he returns this year, Caleb Shoemaker. Ole Miss from the SEC, ranked 28th nationally in the most recent poll for the men, 2nd in the South. They come to the Gans Creek Classic, having finished 6th in the SEC last year. Rice Owls from the AAC, they were 5th in that conference last year. SEMO Redhawks from the Ohio Valley Conference, and the SIU Edwardsville Cougars, also from the OVC, in the field. From the A10, the St. Louis Billikens, they're back after having run here at the end of August in the Mizzou opener. South Dakota Coyotes from the Summit League, they were 5th in the Summit League last year. Southern Illinois Salukis from the Missouri Valley Conference returned to the Gans Creek Classic. Southern Indiana Screaming Eagles from the OVC. Stanford Cardinal, welcome to you from the now ACC. 10th ranked in the nation. They're the West top-ranked school. They were first for the 17th time in the Pac-12 before leaving that conference to go to the ACC. Tennessee Volunteers, 3rd ranked in the Southern Conference. They are here. They were here also for the SEC a few years ago. Last year in the SEC, the Volunteers finished 3rd. Tennessee Martin Skyhawks from the OVC. They were 5th in the OVC last year. They're in the field. UC San Diego Tritons from the Big West. They were 9th at Gans last year. UCLA Bruins make their first visit to the Gans Creek from the Big Ten, 14th ranked in the West region. Valparaiso from the Missouri Valley Conference, last year 8th in that conference. They come to the field, and rounding out the men's field, 14th ranked in the Midwest region, Wichita State Shockers. They had some runners in the Gans Creek last year, and their top runner was 91st in the field a year ago. So those are the 36 schools that are getting ready to receive final instructions from the starter, and we'll be away with our first race of the Gans Creek Classic 2024, the men's D1 8,000 meters, running a 2K loop. They'll finish that 2nd kilometer right in front of those of you at the finish area, and then they'll go out for 2 3K loops. And we will watch on the video board. You'll have that, and you'll be able to see from a good vantage point up the top of that bank or berm right along the finish area. This first stretch is about 500 to 600 meters before it narrows down. The first 2K loop, not the hilliest of the two loops. The 3K would be a little bit more of an incline and decline up and down hills. 500 to 600 meters at the start. Nowhere on this course is it less than 10 meters wide. Spot on the course where they're really going to feel the wind behind them through this day. And again, as I said a moment ago, 500 to 600 meters of a straightaway, slight downhill before they head into a big turn down at the far south end of this course. They almost make a complete circle before they'll circle back around and come underneath the 1 kilometer split gate. And then they'll veer to their right and make a big loop around a lily pad pond before they'll go down a hill. It'll be a split. They'll take the left for this lap, their shortest, the 2K lap, and then we'll see them in front of here in about 5 minutes as they'll come through a 2K split. They'll make that veer right off the finish line straight away to their left and go between the mums and then head back out onto the course. 19 of the schools ranked in their regions. You can see they've already started to come up now after that first sprint on a slight downhill, a little bit of an incline, and here they are going into their first turn. We'll be able to get splits and give you the team standings through each kilometer split. Many schools undoubtedly came to Columbia for this race in order to kind of prepare themselves for what will be the national race that Missouri will host for the D1 Nationals next year in 2025 here on this course. It'll be in November. Never know what the weather's going to be like in Columbia. A week ago, Columbia College, a small college from Columbia, hosted a meet on Friday last week in the evening, and the temperatures were in the 90s. Today, low 60s, much better day. One running time cross-country meet. Pays to be familiar with the course. As you can see if you're watching the video, the runners know where to find the short distance and hit those tangent marks as it weaves back and forth and they get ready to come up on our first split. through a split. I've told you that the winning time over the last 3 years in this race has been 23:34 up to 23:48. And they go through the first kilometer. Thomas Boyden of Stanford, the leader, but he's run right next to Lex Young. There's a Lex Young and a Leo Young in this field for Stanford. 2 of the top 7 are those Young brothers. Boyden, though, with the fastest time, 2:47.2. And if you look at the team standings, you see Stanford dominating through that first kilometer with 37 points as a team, Tennessee with 84. Get used to Stanford being in the ACC. They have run in the USF San Francisco Invitational earlier this year, finished 5th. They have 7 runners in that race, and they were just running as a time workout because they ran that race with 7 runners within 0.3 of a second of each other. They won the Pac-12 last year. Of course, Kai Robinson was the winner of the Pac-12. He went on to run 3rd in the NCAA, no longer with eligibility on the college level. So Stanford restocking. Christopher Middleton Pearson of Tennessee was running 3rd. Luke Marsanskis of Maine running 4th after that first kilometer. Toby Gillen of Ole Miss running 5th. 14 were under 250 at the 1,000-meter split. So they've gone down the hill. They've hung a left where the fork in the trail is, and they'll be coming around the circle, and they'll come up over the hill, and we'll see them coming towards the finish line for their next split of 2,000 meters. Stanford, Tennessee, Ole Miss, the top 3 teams after 1 kilometer. Awards at 11 today. We'll hand out awards to the top 15 finishers in each race, and for the Division I race, we'll recognize the top 2 schools. Tennessee's Christopher Middleton Pearson has the lead, and now they go from that turn that went to the right where they hugged the right line to now veering over to the left, knowing that their next turn is going to be the one that'll take them over the pads that'll register their 2K split. Five and a half minutes into the race. First split was a 2:47 for most of this lead pack. Stanford still, like they were at the first split, the top 2 runners, and then the Tennessee Volunteer running 3rd. No change in those top 3, no change in the top 4. Peter Visser of Weber State did make a climb of 4 spots in that second kilometer. So he moved into 5th. You have Stanford running 1, 2, 6, 7. And their 5th runner is scoring 26. Luke Marsanskis of Maine stays in the thick of things in 4th. Maine ran at the University of Vermont Invitational. Then in the Maine State Meet, Marsanskis didn't run in those races. He comes back after finishing 4th in the America East last year, and he was 32nd in the Northeast region a year ago for the Black Bears out of Maine. I mentioned Christopher Middleton Pearson running first for Tennessee. He ran in the Tennessee Invitational 4 mile. He finished 3rd there behind 2 of his teammates. Through the 2,000 meters, team score would be 42 for Stanford, 96 for Tennessee. And Missouri moved up into 3rd with a big climb in that second kilometer. Missouri knocking off 66 spots and went up to 3rd with 143. Auburn running 4th and Ole Miss 5th, the top 5 teams after 2,000 meters. Well, they're on familiar territory as this is their second of 3 times around the Big South Loop. 327 runners through the 2-kilometer split. Compare that to previous years. We had 231 finish the race last year. Make that just shy of 200 last year. We had 231 2 years ago. So this is going to be the biggest Gans Creek Classic men's field in the Division 1. 8:30 through nearly 3 kilometers. Of course, the opening kilometer at 2:47. We'll probably have another fast one here as they had that tailwind. They went 2:56, the leaders did, in the second kilometer. Here they're underneath the board registering 3 kilometers. Brian Bett of North Alabama, a freshman, has taken over the lead. He split a sub-3-minute third kilometer and comes through at 8:44. Christopher Middleton Pearson, who's been in the top 3 through each of our first 3 splits, stays in second, moves up a spot actually. And Thomas Boyden, the early leader, is now in third. Toby Gillen of Ole Miss has moved into fourth. Luke Marsanskis has stayed in the top 5 throughout this race. And Leo Young of Stanford up a spot into sixth. Those are the top 6. So the new leader is Brian Bett out of North Alabama. Bett was third in the Memphis Twilight earlier this year. He was the winner in the UNA Invitational. Ran a 24:08 there. In his freshman year now for the Lions. Out of the ASUN Conference. We mentioned the brothers Young out of Stanford. Leo Young running 6th, Lex Young running 8th. They come back after having been important contributors to the Stanford Cardinal 8th place finish last year in the national championship race. Lex Young 74th in that race. In the West region, Leo Young was 26th in that race. They're on a new part of the course. And the next split will be the 4K, and they'll be halfway through their race. 10:40 on the clock. They're not quite at that split yet. This is a part of the course that can be deceptive because it does have some inclines that'll sneak up on you because they last quite a ways. Not the steepest hills, but they are climbs. Leaders are nearing that far east point of the course. Still see Christopher Middleton Pearson up there towards the front as he has run throughout most of this race. Tennessee was third in the SEC a year ago. They finished 26th in the national meet. Volunteers ranked third in the South region. Here they come through 4K. Lex Young moved up 7 spots in that 4th kilometer to take over the lead. He ran a 2:58.5 split. Nixon Chabai of Auburn, a 2:58 split. He climbed 10 spots with him, his teammate Ryan Kinane, and they both climbed 10 spots to move into second and third. Patrick Kuhn of Stanford made a big climb also of 12 spots. He ran a 2:57.4 split. That's the fastest one that we've seen so far. Actually, there was a 2:56.9 by Blake Morris in the 4th kilometer for the Tigers of Missouri. He climbed 11th spot into 12th. So a 2:56 looks to be about the fastest split of the field. We go way back. Well, we go to the 20th spot, and Illinois State's William Sinclair split a 2:55.2. So that's the fastest split of the top 20 on that 4th kilometer. So 11:43 for the top 15 runners, all under 11:44. Less than a second separating the top 15. So we'll see them at their 5K split right in front of us. Again, good vantage point if you follow the berm that is along the straightaway into the finish line and curl to the east. You'll be able to see them as they come around the trees and the turn and head towards that straightaway that'll eventually be their finish line straight, but they've got to navigate it this time and one more time. Coming around a loop now that takes them onto that straightaway finish of several hundred meters. Through the 4,000 split, Stanford as a team still leading with 33. They gained some spots in that fourth kilometer. Tennessee in second with 114, Auburn 119 in third, and Missouri with 155. So the tight race there is for second and third, with Tennessee holding a 5-point lead over Auburn. Auburn fifth in the SEC last year, seventh in the South region. This is 5,000 meters into it, and they'll go one more time around that 3K loop. This is a tight field. 5,000 at 14:38.9, a 2:55 split for Thomas Boyden of Stanford as he took the lead back, gained 7 spots on that split. Christopher Middleton Pearson had dropped back just a bit, but he's back up into the top 2, gained 4 spots on that split. Cole Sprout of Stanford into the picture now as he climbed 6 spots. Sprout, one of the Cardinal returning. He was third in the Pac-12 last year behind his teammate Robinson. Sprout was fourth in the West region, and then Sprout finished 95th in the national championship. Collins Kiprop from Kentucky moved up 10 spots into fourth in that most recent kilometer. Kentucky 8th in the SEC last year. Collins 5th in the Southern Showcase earlier this year, ran a 23:45. He has had good success in the African championships, finishing 5th in the African championships in the steeple. See Toby Gillen of Ole Miss also in the lead pack. Gillen, who was 14th in the SEC last year, finished 15th in the Southeast region. He's having a good run today also. So the split, they liked that kilometer, the 5th kilometer, because that was a very fast kilometer of 2:55 for most of the leaders. Stanford continues to lead team-wise. They scored 1, 3, 6, 7, and 15 after 5K. Stanford 32, Tennessee 134, Auburn 139. Interesting, that was a 5-point difference after 4K, and it stays 5 after 5K. Missouri stays in fourth with a 155. It's the third lap for the leaders as they are also on that third big circle that'll head them back towards the what will now be a 6K split. Stanford runners still at the front. It was Boyden and Sprout after 5,000 meters. Earlier, the wind was about 4 meters per second, which would be too fast for a legal sprint time on the track, but it is a brisk wind that they are kind of navigating now heading into. Got the 6K split, and Toby Gillen of Ole Miss moved up 4 more spots. He's in first now. Luke Marsanski's of Maine, mentioned him in the early portion of the race today. He's into second, gaining 10 spots. But again, those leaders are so close together. The top 5 are within 0.4 of a second of each other. Gillen, Marsanski's, Middleton Pearson, who's been there all race, Boyden from Stanford also, and Leo Young. Those are the top 5. Then Nixon Chabai of Auburn, who we mentioned after the split of 5,000 meters. Collins Kippengok from Kentucky. Lex Young of Stanford in 8th. Edward Bird of Kentucky moved up 7 spots to take 9th at 6K. And then a big climb of 10 spots for Mathis Chavon of Illinois State. He is now in 10th. Alan Kiplagat of Middle Tennessee State running 11th. Toby Gillen, who was the top finisher for Ole Miss in the SEC last year and their second runner in the South region last year, he has taken over the lead. He split a 257-1. Most of that lead group, 256 to 257 for a 6 kilometer. Stanford continues to lead team-wise. Stanford with 45, Tennessee with 144, Auburn 152, Kentucky moved up to 4th, and they have 169. Stanford scoring runners 4, 5, 8, 13, and 15. Perhaps the quickest downhill is the one about 1,200 meters on the lap. They run about 1,200 meters. That is the duplicate of what they run on the 2K loop and the 3K loop. They head down a hill, and again, they're on their second 3K loop. They veered to the right, and now they're off towards what will be their last split on the course, 7,000 meters. Took a good portion of this race for this field to be narrowed down to as small a group at the lead as we've seen right now. See the runner from Maine, from Tennessee, a couple of runners from Stanford. Ole Miss is still in that pack. We've gone through 7,000 meters. Boyden gained 3 spots, brought with him his teammate Leo Young. Stanford runners 1 and 2 now. Edward Bird running 3rd. He gained 6 spots in that last kilometer. Alan Kiplagat of Middle Tennessee State, a freshman, he gained 7 spots to move into 4th. Luke Marsanski's down 3 into 5th. Toby Gillen is in 6th. Christopher Middleton Pearson is in 7th. That is as low as he has been in this race, as he has been anything from the lead to the top 3 through most of the race. Ryan Kinane of Auburn 8th. And then 2 more Stanford runners, Cole Sprout 9, Lex Young 10. Stanford also has a runner in 14th. That's Paul Bergeron, a freshman. So Stanford with 5 runners in the top 14. The Cardinal will have the team championship, it would seem safe to say, as they've scored 36 through 7,000 meters. Tennessee and Kentucky and Auburn battling for the second spot. At the award stand, we'll have 2 teams recognized later on this morning. Stanford likely to be one of them. Tennessee, Kentucky, or Auburn, maybe Missouri. Missouri in 5th with 181. They are out of a 3rd spot by just 12 points. Top runner for the host school is Ryder James. Again, the record for a Gans Creek Classic Division I 8K is 2:34.2. And we are coming up on 22:30 right now. Men's 8K record 23:33.5. And that was set at the SEC Championships of 2021. The sprint is on to the finish line now. The lead vehicle's bringing them in, and they're sprinting side by side. Stanford and Kentucky. And it's going to be the Kentucky runners at a good second half of the race. That is Edward Bird, a sophomore for the Wildcats of Kentucky, who comes through with a new course record, 23:07.6. Stanford finishing second, third, and fifth. Leo Young, Cole Sprout. Auburn breaks up the Stanford trio there with a fourth-place finish. Ryan Kinane, then Lex Young, then Toby Gillen of Ole Miss. Luke Marsanskis of Maine hangs on for a seventh-place finish. Thomas Boyden of Stanford in eighth. Mathis Chavon of Illinois State in ninth. Alan Kiplagat, Middle Tennessee State in 10th. Ryder James of Missouri climbed 5 spots in the last kilometer and will finish 11th. Brian Bett, one of the early leaders from North Alabama, 12th. Paul Bergeron of Stanford, 13th. Gives Stanford those 5 finishers in the top 13. William Sinclair of Illinois State. Collins Kippengok of Kentucky takes 15th. Again, we had 327 through the early split, and we've seen about 70 of those finish so far. Some of these may determine who gets into the second and third spots. But Edward Bird of Kentucky, the fastest. Bird 30th in the SEC meet last year. Ran at 24:14 there, 23:07.6. A new course record set by Edward Bird today. And we're going to check to see there are the top 15 all faster than the course record. Stanford with 31. They finished second, third, fifth, eighth, and 13th. Tennessee second with 163. Auburn 167 in third. Missouri fourth with a 180. And Kentucky with a 187, led by the overall winner, Edward Bird. More than 250, now nearing 275 of the runners finishing. What a terrific race and good race conditions apparently today, because the times are terrific. And the last split on the last kilometer for Edward Bird, the winner, 2:38.9. How about Edward Bird's climb through the standings? He was in 29th after the first kilometer, 23rd after 2, and then 22, 23. He moved up to 16th as they started the second half of the race, got into the top 10 at 6,000 meters, moved up to third at 7,000 meters, and then gained those last 2 spots to win with terrific 2:38.9. No one else that we see in the top group broke 2:40, 2:38.9, the fastest split, it would appear, of the day for any of the runners. Brings the sophomore for the Kentucky Wildcats in first. Again, Stanford as a team will win with 31. Tennessee second, 163. Auburn third, 167. Missouri fourth with a 180. Leo Young was second. Young was never lower than 7th throughout this race. Cole Sprout of Stanford was in third. He had a terrific last 2 kilometers as Sprout had dropped to 13th after 6,000 meters. He went up 4 spots in the 7th kilometer, up 6 more to finish 3rd. And how about Ryan Kinane of Auburn? Auburn's runner continued to gain through the last 2 kilometers, gaining 8 spots, moving into 4th. Lex Young of Stanford gained 5 in the last kilometer, finished 5th. What a good race it was today. And again, if you missed it a moment ago, the top looks like 14 runners all broke the old, make it the top 15 runners, all broke the old course record. The old record, 2:30 or 23:33.5. Today, that would have got spot 16 in this field. Next great race scheduled to start at 8:45. We're not quite 15 minutes away from the start of the women's Division I 6K. And it is a loaded field, just like this men's race turned out to be. Well, that was a terrific men's 8K for the Division I teams. And we are now coming up on 12, 13 minutes away from the start of our women's race. Special feature this year at the Gans Creek Classic. He used to compete for the University of Missouri in a field event, the high jump. I'm not sure if he would have run this course or not. You know him from ESPN. ESPN's loss is the University of Missouri and Mid-Missouri's gain because he's going to be at the J School at MU, and he's here at the course today. If you look just past the finish line, interviewing the Kentucky sophomore Edward Bird, who won with a new course record. Here's John Anderson. Thanks, John. There's the winner, 23:07.6, a new course record for the 8K for the men. That's Ed Bird out of Kentucky and Dorchester, England. He was the under-20 championship bronze medalist in the 3,000 meters back in 2024. Also the all-freshman team cross-country last year in the SEC. And he is off to a very good celebration of his run today. Second, also under 23:10, was Leo Young of Stanford. Stanford wins the men's 8,000 meter D1 race, and we get ready for the women's race scheduled to start at 8:45. Got 40 schools scheduled to be a part of this women's race, and of those 40, 5 are ranked in the top 30 nationally at the most recent rankings for the women's side. Many also have rankings in the regions, just like we saw with the men. Won't have a chance before the starter needs to give some final instructions to go through maybe a lot about all the teams, but we do welcome Abilene Wildcats on the women's race, 15th ranked in the South Central. Air Force Falcons from the Mountain West Conference. They're currently ranked 10th in the Mountain region. Auburn Tigers from the SEC, 9th in the Southern Division. The Baylor Bears out of the Big 12, 10th in the South Central. They come back to Gans Creek after being here last year. Central Arkansas Bears from the ASUN Conference. Creighton Blue Jays out of the Big East. Eastern Washington Eagles from the Big Sky Conference. They were 5th in the Big Sky last year. Florida Gators currently ranked 6th on the women's poll last week from the SEC. They were 5th in the NCAA a year ago. They do return several of the runners from last year, and including 2 that finished in the top 50, or 1 that finished in the top 50 in the national meet last year, Allison Wilson. She was 49th last year. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets from the ACC, 6th in the Southern region. They're in the field. Illinois State Redbirds from the Missouri Valley Conference, Iowa Hawkeyes out of the Big Ten, Kansas Jayhawks. They've been to the Gans Creek Classic before. They finished 6th here last year for the Big 12. Kansas City Roos out of the Summit League. Kansas State Wildcats from Manhattan come representing the Big 12, 4th in the Gans Creek last year. Cecilia Fisher finished 38th in this Gans Creek race in 2023. Kentucky Wildcats, 12th in the Southeast region in the field. Lipscomb Bisons from the ASUN, 13th ranked nationally, 4th in the Southern region. Maine Black Bears from America East. Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders in the field from Conference USA. The host school, Missouri Tigers, 13th ranked in the Midwest region this latest ranking. Missouri State Bears from the NVC field a women's team. North Alabama Lions and the North Florida Osprey. Glad that they both were able to make it here, and thinking about their areas that are being battered by the Hurricane Helene. Wish the best for them. Northern Iowa Panthers from the MVC. Ole Miss ranked 26th nationally, 5th in the South region. They're in the field. Omaha Mavericks from the Summit League. SEMO Redhawks, SIU Edwardsville Cougars, both from the Ohio Valley Conference. St. Louis Billikens from the A10. They are regularly here at the Gans Creek course. South Dakota Coyotes from the Summit League, 15th ranked in the Midwest. Also in the field, Southern Illinois Salukis from the Missouri Valley Conference. Southern Indiana Screaming Eagles, they're making their transition from D2 to D1 and doing it very well. They finished 2nd in the OVC last year. Stanford Cardinal ranked 8th nationally, 3rd in the West region. They're in the field. They finished 12th in the NCAA last year, won the West region last year, and they bring several of those runners back for another year this year. Tennessee Volunteers, 9th ranked nationally, 2nd in the South region. Tennessee Martin Skyhawks from the OVC. Tulsa Hurricane from the AAC, 9th in the Midwest region rankings. UC San Diego Tritons, their first return visit to the Gans Creek Classic, 14th here a year ago, 14th ranked in the West region this year. UCLA Bruins, they're in the field, currently ranked 13th in the West region. Valparaiso from the Missouri Valley Conference in the field. Weber State Wildcats out of the Big Sky, they're ranked 8th in the Mountain region. They finished 3rd in the Big Sky last year. Rounding out the women's field, Wichita State Shockers. This is a return to the Gans Creek Classic for the Shockers. They were 3rd last year. So that's the field in the women 6K. They'll be running 2 3K loops. So they'll not be going on that inner 2K loop. They'll take the 3K loop twice. The 6K record on this course is 1955.2. Mercy Shalanga out of Alabama set that in the 2021 SEC Championships hosted here. 1955.2. This is the 6th Gans Creek Classic. Last year's winner was Juliet Sherbet of Texas Tech with a 2016. Olivia Howell of Illinois ran and won in 2022 with a 2021. 2053 winning time for Yasmin Wright of Wichita State back in 2021. 2020 short version because of COVID. Sarah Chapman of Missouri won with a 20 minute 1.1 second time, which is our fastest in this race. And running unattached, Caitlin Shea won the very first Gans Creek Classic women's race with a 21:12. So something under 20 will set the new record for Gans Creek. And a run of 1955 or better would set the new course record. Three minutes away from the start of race number 2 of this morning's session for the Gans Creek Classic, women's 6K. So our start of the first women's race of the Gans Creek Classic 2024 version. Again, welcome to Columbia. Those of you who might have just shown up for this women's race, we hope that you'll explore this course. There's a 2K loop and a 3K loop. The women will be running the 3K loop twice today for their 6,000 meters. And there are the 6th, 8th, 9th, 13th, and 26th ranked teams. Prime time timing is doing the timing, and so you can check the results there if you're not within spot of watching the view board. And we are watching the runners as they are on that 500 to 600 meter straightaway, wide start of 40-plus boxes at the start line. And they head south with that tailwind. And they'll be able to make a big loop at the south end of the course, almost a complete circle, before they'll come back into view and go underneath the gate that will give us our first K split. We can already tell that this race is unfolding a bit different than the men's race. If you remember the men's race, we had a large group of runners in a lead pack. But as they come up and get ready for their first 1,000-meter split, we already see a runner breaking away from the front. Brenda Jepchicher, one of two Auburn Tigers, running first and second. The freshman with a 3:07 split. Her lead's about 4 seconds through the first 1,000 meters. Auburn running very well as they have three in the top five. Janae Kotze from Auburn running second. Odelia Jepchumba from Middle Tennessee State, a freshman, running third. Another freshman from Middle Tennessee State, Sandra Mayo, running fourth. And then Samantha Rogers of Auburn running fifth. Auburn would have a team lead with 83. Stanford not far behind, though, with 86. Stanford running scoring-wise 9, 11, 19, 23, and 24. So they have five in the top 24. Auburn, though, with a 1, 2, 5, 37, and 38. So 3:07.2 through the first kilometer. Again, the course has about 1,200 meters common for both of the loops. The leader, Jepchicher, has already dropped the field and gone down and up the hill near where that split takes place. And so she's out past the split. And we will see them come through at the 3,000 meters here. So there's another split to come before they come back to this start-finish line area. So Auburn was 11th in the SEC last year. Janae Coetzee was 25th in the SEC. She was 26th in the South region. She's running second to her freshman teammate Brenda Chepchichir, who has not registered a time in the Southern Showcase 5K. Brenda Chepchichir's lead has grown in the second kilometer. Now she's leading by about 16 seconds over her teammate Coetzee. Chepchichir ran a 3:08 split in the second kilometer to go with a 3:07. Team standings pretty tight between Stanford and Florida. Those are two nationally ranked and successful teams on the national scene. 15 points separating Stanford and Florida. Auburn in third. 70, 85, 93. Those numbers could change just a bit. Probably won't, though. Running third, Odelia Jepchumba from Middle Tennessee State. There was no change in the top three through the first split between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. Sophia Kennedy of Stanford, a sophomore, gained 7 spots in the second kilometer, move into fourth. Sophia Dudek from Stanford now running fifth. She gained 4 spots. Samantha Rogers sixth. Tia Wilson, the first Florida Gator, and she's in seventh. And then 2 Tennessee runners, Ashley Jones and Jillian Candolino, running 8th and 9th. Caroline Wells of Florida running 10th. Another Florida runner 11th, Bethann Morley. And then Rahel Brummel from Missouri running 12th. She's the first Missouri Tiger. Ruth Kamali of Baylor running 13th. Hannah Eilfeld of Ole Miss 14th. And Laurel Wynn also for Ole Miss running 15th. Stanford with 70. Florida with 85. Auburn with 93. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Tulsa rounding out the top 6 teams. Chepchichir, who's running on her own as she comes around the turn that will bring her down at the halfway point at the end of the straightaway when she goes off to the left. She ran a 1:09:45 half marathon. She also placed third in the under 20 Kenyan 3,000 World Trials, fifth in the 5,000 under 20. Now she's a freshman at Auburn. How about that? A sub 1:10 half marathon for the runner who's coming in front of those of you at the finish line now. She has run a 3:07 and a 3:08 kilometer splits, and we'll get her halfway point. She'll go back and retrace the steps of this course. Leading by 16 after the last split, and she's the first across with a 3:16, almost 3:17 split in kilometer 3. Brenda Chepchichir from Auburn with a 9:32.5 at the halfway point. That is a low 19-minute split. And as I said earlier, the 6K record here is 19:55. Dudek and Kennedy from Stanford running 2 and 3. Coetzee from Auburn has dropped to 4th, up 8 spots. Ruth Kameli from Baylor, she's now in 5th. Brummel from Missouri gained 6 spots in that most recent kilometer. She comes through at 9:58 through a halfway point. Caroline Wells of Florida just a step behind Brummel. Laurel Wynn of Ole Miss up 7 spots into 8th. Ashley Jones of Tennessee in 9th, and Bethan Morley of Florida in 10th. Team standing, Stanford with a comfortable margin at the halfway point, 55 points, scoring 2, 3, 11, 14, and 25. Ole Miss up into 2nd, Florida running 3rd. Good spot to watch is from the berm, about 50 to 100 meters off of the finish line, and you can see most of this first kilometer. They do disappear out of sight just a bit, and then they come back inside and run underneath that gate that will mark their 4th kilometer split. Chepchicher has led since early on, and she has increased her lead at every split. She was up to almost 24 seconds after 3,000 meters. Mentioned that there were 40 teams at the start line, 334 individual runners at the start of this race. And again, these numbers the largest that we've seen at the Gans Creek Classic, now in its 6th version. Sub 13 at 4,000 meters for Brenda Chepchicher. Her last split, a 3:23. It's the slowest of her splits, but she's the only one to come through under 13 minutes. She has definitely run clear of the field in her first year for the Tigers out of Auburn. Coetzee has been running 2nd for Auburn through this race, and she was their top finisher in the SEC and also in the South region. She has dropped off a bit, though, here in the second half of the race, as staying in 2nd is Sophia Dudek of Stanford with a 13:21. So about a 25-second lead for Chepchicher. Ruth Kameli from Baylor has just continued her climb up, and now she is right behind Dudek running 3rd. Sophia Kennedy of Stanford running 4th. Ashley Jones, Tennessee, 5th. Laurel Wynn of Ole Miss, 6th. Rahel Brummel of Missouri running 7th. Jillian Candolino, Tennessee, 8th. Riley Stewart of Stanford, 9. Caroline Wells of Florida, 10. Mentioned Florida, they're ranked number 6 as a team coming into today's race. Returning runners for them from last year's successful 5th place finish in the NCAA championships. Allison Wilson, who was 49th in the national meet, 14th in the region. She was 19th in the SEC. Lena Winborn also on that squad again this year. Team-wise, through 4,000 meters, Stanford with 59, Tennessee now with a bit of a more comfortable spot in 2nd with 80, Ole Miss 106, Florida 131, Auburn 149. Top 5 teams, all under 150. $5,000 meters now complete for Brenda Chepchicher of Auburn out of Kenya, a 16-17-6 split, and that was a 3:21. If she kept that pace, she would be about 19:37. She is on a comfortable pace to break the Gans Creek 6K record for women. Shalanga out of Alabama with a 19:55. Ashley Jones of Tennessee climbed 3 spots. We're in a 3:16, so she gained 5 seconds on the leader in the 5th kilometer. She's trailing by 22. Laurel Wynn of Ole Miss kept pace with Jones, both gaining time on the leader, but is there enough time left for them to make this an interesting race down the straightaway? Chepchicher has led comfortably from early on in the race. Built up a 20-some second lead in the middle of the race, and she's still without any competitor in sight behind her as we check the video board. Stanford has already had 6 through after 30 scored. So Stanford again looking to sweep both the women and the men. Division I races today. Stanford with 54, and again the scores are still cycling through. It could change a little bit, but Stanford 54, Tennessee 74, Ole Miss 106, Auburn 158, Georgia Tech 190. $18.40 into the race, and Brenda Chepchicher coming around the last turn onto the straightaway. The course record 19:55.2. We saw the record fall in the men's race. And just into the over the 19-minute mark, Chepchicher is going to make a strong run for the record as she comes having dominated. And then you see around the turn, the real race is going to be for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The freshman from Auburn trying to hold on to win as the race has tightened up quite a bit over the last 2,000 meters. Chepchicher with the closers coming after her, struggling down the last 15 meters, and she will hold on to win with a new course record. Chepchicher 19:50.1, but how about Dudek from Stanford running the last kilometer in 3:13, and she shaved a ton of time off of Chepchir's lead. Sophia Kennedy of Stanford finishing third. Laurel Wynn of Ole Miss fourth. Ashley Jones stays in the top 5 for Tennessee. Julia Flynn of Stanford seventh. Ree Cardinal in the top 7. Ruth Camelli, who was making that run up the leaderboard early in the race, stays for 8th. Rachel Sutliff of Tennessee gained 3 spots in the last kilometer, finished 9th. Riley Stewart of Stanford 10. Then Florida with 3 in a row. Tia Wilson, Caroline Wells, Reagan Gilmore, 11, 12, and 13. Kate Jortberg of Georgia Tech in 14th. Jillian Candolino of Tennessee in 15th. Missouri's runner Rahel Brummel just out of the top 15. She finishes 16th today. Top 2 both broke the course record. Chepchir 1950.1. Sophia Dudek of Stanford 1953.6. Chepchir led for the whole race. Dudek's run, she was in the top 10 throughout the whole race, but her last kilometer of 3:12.9 brought her from 5th to 2nd. Let's give some credit also down in the 9th place finish for Tennessee's Rachel Sutliff. She was 30th after the first kilometer, climbed every kilometer except at 5,000 meters. She dropped a spot, but gained that plus 2 more back to finish 9th. Stanford with the team win in the women's race, 44, Tennessee 91, Ole Miss 120, Florida 131. .334 had split times at the 1K. And we have seen nearly 300 of them finish now. And we are still under 24 minutes of the race time. So both races today that we've had so far have set new course records. The men's record by Ed Bird of Kentucky, and the women's record from Auburn, Brenda Chepchir with a 1950.1. Top 4 runners on this women's race, all under 20 minutes. It's the first time in a Gans Creek Classic Division I women's race that we've had times under 20 minutes. So not only a course record, but it's going to be the new meet record. And it'll be our first 4 under 20 minutes. Next up at 9:30, about 20 minutes from now, to be the 8K race in the open division, and it is a really good field for the open divisions today, as many schools from NAIA affiliations are wanting to run on this course because the NAIA National Championship is here on November 22nd. And so they're going to get a good feel of this course before the National Championship. And there are many, many schools that are ranked in the just released poll yesterday of the NAIA. With that, the women's race of Division I has concluded. Stanford with 44, Tennessee 91, Ole Miss 120, the top 3 schools. 2 schools will be recognized at the awards. And again, awards for these races will be at the award stand, which is behind those of you on the berm. There are some bleachers set up there. And that comes up at 11 o'clock after our next 2 races. Next race at 9:30, the men's 8K Open. And we will set the field in just a moment. We're less than 15 minutes away from the start of our next race. It'll be another 8K race. It'll be for the Open Division men. There'll be several schools that are being represented that already had runners in the Division 1. They're kind of the overflow runners that'll be running in this race. We're going to focus mostly on those schools, though, that are fielding teams that are in the Open Division that were not in the Division 1 race. As I said earlier, there are a lot of schools that are ranked, and several of them that are ranked in the top 20 on the NAIA poll that was released yesterday. There are 8 squads in the top 20 in the field today that are on that NAIA poll. And we have the top-ranked school out of the JUCO division, 16th ranked school out of JUCO Division 2. We've got a school that is ranked pretty high in the Central region for NCAA Division 2. Then we'll look at a squad that has a good ranking in the Mountain region in Division 1. Here are some of the schools that are going to be competing. Aquinas there, the Saints for the NAIA. They're out of the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference. They were 19th in the NAIA a year ago and won that conference. Baker Wildcats, also an NAIA team. They were at the Gans Creek Classic last year, finished 12th. They were 5th in the Heart of American Athletic Conference a year ago. Bellevue Bruins are here. They have a top runner, Richard Marcoux, who is the winner in the Northern Star Athletic Association and also finished 100th in the NAIA, the best ever finish for a Bellevue runner last year. Benedictine out of Kansas. The Ravens are an NAIA school, the Viking Invitational champions this year, and Thomas Campbell was the winner of that race. They finished first in the Heart of American last year and 29th in the NAIA national meet. Cornerstone Golden Eagles from Grand Rapids, an NAIA school. They finished first in the Warrior Challenge with Jamin Thompson, the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference Runner of the Week. Cumberland's ranked 5th in the NAIA. The Patriots, Mid-South Conference champions last year, 3rd in the NAIA national meet a year ago. Dakota State Trojans from the NAIA. They have the Runner of the Week in the NSAA, Caleb Saylor. He was 8th in the Dort Sunflower. Emporia State, a Division II school from the NCAA, 5th in the Gans last year. They had 15th place finisher Henry Jones a year ago. Fort Hays State, 4th in the JK Gold already this year, 8th in the MIAA, a Division II NCAA school. Goshen Maple Leafs from the NAIA, 16th in the NAIA last year. Their lead runner, Matthew Kaitani, 58th a year ago. Grace is ranked 21, the Lancers. They have the Runner of the Week in the Crossroads League, Brandon Kleber, runner-up in the Warrior Challenge, won him that award. They were 13th in the NAIA a year ago. Indiana Wesleyan ranked number 7th in the NAIA poll. Eli Fullerton, the Crossroads Runner of the Week, first in the IWU Twilight Meet, 49th in the NAIA National Meet a year ago as a team. Indiana Wesleyan finished 5th. Iowa Western Community College, top ranked in the JUCO Division 1. Jeffrey Rono, National Athlete of the Week. He's had 3 wins already this year. Lewis and Clark ranked 13th in the NAIA. State College Warriors from the Cascade Conference, where they were 3rd last year, 17th in the NAIA a year ago. Missouri Valley, representing the Heart of America Athletic Conference, returns to Gans Creek. Northwestern Oklahoma Rangers, 6th in the Missouri Southern Stampede this year. They were 5th in the Great American Conference a year ago. Oklahoma City ranked 10th in the NAIA. The Stars won the SNU Invitational. Carson Patton running 2nd there. They're 1st in the Sooner Athletic Conference a year ago. They've run 7 in a row championships in that conference, 11th in the NAIA last year. Southeastern Conference, they're a JUCO Division II school. Southeastern Community College, 16th ranked in the most recent JUCO D2 poll. They're the Blackhawks. They won the ICCAC last year, ranked number 21 in that conference this year. Ranked number 1 in the conference this year, my bad. Spring Arbor Cougars from the NAIA. They're out of Spring Arbor, Michigan. They had a runner in the top 60 in the NAIA last year, and that's Ryan O'Rourke. He's off was a 13th runner in the Crossroads League last year also. Tabor Blue Jays, 8th in the Gans a year ago, 3rd in the KCAC last year. They had 4 runners at the NAIA last year. Taylor Trojans, 6th rank in the NAIA most recent poll. They won the IWU Twilight, 2nd in the Crossroads a year ago, 9th in the NAIA. Truman Bulldogs, NCAA Division II school from Kirksville, 3rd in the Prairie State Invitational this year. They finished 8th in the Great Lakes Valley Conference a year ago. Washburn Ichabods, an NCAA Division II school, 25th ranked in the D2 poll, 4th in the Central Division. They're in the field. They were runner-up in the MIA last year, and they returned Donald Cabet. Donald Cabet, who was 8th last year in the MIAA, 28th in the D2 national meet. Weber State Wildcats representing the Big Sky. They should have a team in this race. Peter Visser has been their lead runner this year and last year. And the William Jewell Cardinals, 15th at Gans a year ago. They come out of the Great Lakes Valley Conference of Division II NCAA Conference. Lindenwood also expected to have a runner in the field. Isaac Diwa, 4th at the UT Martin OVC Pre and 3rd in the Hy-Vee Prairie Stars. We'll keep an eye on Dewad also in this race. As I said, there are several other schools that are going to be fielding teams like Lipscomb, Missouri, Kansas, Illinois State, Iowa, Kentucky, North Alabama, Tennessee, Wichita State. They'll be having runners in this field also. The men's 8K for the open division. Scheduled to start 6.5 minutes from now. At the Gans Creek Classic, we've had the open division run before, but this is the 6th version of the Gans Creek Classic, and we've had only 3 prior open runs. Last year's winner was from Colby Community College, Ngadi Manyobodi, and he ran a 24:18. He was followed by Northwest Missouri State runner Drew Atkins, as there were 6 under 25 minutes in the men's 8K open division last year at this race. There were 7 under 25 minutes in the 2022 race. That race was won by an unattached runner, Jonathan Bowen, with a 24:25. Jacinto Gaspar of Iowa Western Community College was second with a 24:30. And then in the very first open division for the Gans Creek Classic back in 2021, 1 under 25 minutes. That was Luke Skinner of St. Mary, Kansas. He ran a 24:56. So the fastest time in this meet, in this race, is a 24:18.2 set last year. As I mentioned, the NAIA National Championships are on this course a little less than 2 months from now. And that makes this Gans Creek Classic a very appealing race to several of the NAIA schools that have hopes of being back here for the national championship. Top-ranked NAIA schools that are here. We'll watch Cumberland's. They're ranked 5th in the recent poll. Taylor ranked 6th. Indiana Wesleyan ranked 7th. 10th, Oklahoma City. Lewis and Clark 13th. They've had a successful run in 17th in the NAIA last year. Aquinas, Spring Arbor, and Grace round out those that have been ranked in the top 25 NAIA this year. As we saw in the men's Division 1 8K, the open division runners will run the 2K loop first, and then they'll come back with 2 3K loops. Three minutes away from the start, so we'll turn it over and the starters will give final instructions to the runners as they gather at the start line. $8K for the open division Gans Creek men's race underway now. The wide start leads them about 500 to 600 meters. The first turn will be that south turn, as far south as they'll run. We hope that those of you who are here and have arrived for the open races are familiar with the course. They run a 2K loop. It comes, the split in the course between the 2K and the 3K loops comes about 1,200 meters into the course. Good portion of these schools are making their initial visit to Columbia for the Gans Creek. The start is just barely a decline, but then just a few hundred meters into the race, they climb just a bit, make that big circle. There are races this evening on this course, elite races for the high schoolers in the Gans Creek Classic. The first time those have been a part of this classic. 6:30, 7, 7:30, and 8 for races. 2 varsity, 2 junior varsity, and then a full day of racing tomorrow. Starts early around 8 o'clock and ends early tomorrow afternoon with 10 more races for the high schoolers tomorrow. So they made the big loop. It's a south loop, and then they come off of that turn back into our view, and we'll be able to see them come underneath the first kilometer split. Good cut-through points if you're so inclined to get out onto the course. And again, a great appreciation for the officials from the University of Missouri Track and Field Cross Country Officials Association for what they do to make this meet run smoothly. And please, if you're out on the course, listen to these marshals as they will give you some heads up and some advice. We've seen the first kilometer splits posted, and the first 59 are all under 3 minutes, led by Jeffrey Rono from Iowa Western Community College, a 2:52.4. Barnabas Dewa from Iowa Western Community College right with him. This is the team that is ranked number 1 in the JUCO Division I. They were 5th overall in the JUCO championships a year ago. They won the Greeno-Dirksen. They had the top 4 of the top 6 in the Greeno-Dirksen this year. Jeffrey Rono, the National Athlete of the Week on the JUCO Division I. He's already had 3 wins. He ran a 23:42 at Greeno-Dirksen in Nebraska. Running for Kansas, unattached, though, in this race is Peter Walsdorf running 3rd. Mohammed Kowa from Iowa Western running 4th. Another Kansas unattached runner, Tanner Newkirk, running 5th. Joshua Bell, he's in the field running in this race for Stanford. He's 6th. Evert Silva of Oklahoma City, he would be the first NAIA runner, and he was in 7th. Then a couple of runners getting some run in for the Missouri's team. Joseph Barriola running 8th, and Johnny Martin running 9th. And then Andrew Hauser, the freshman at MU, he is really familiar with this course, having a successful career on the high school level at Rockbridge and running at the Gans Creek as well as the state championship meets. He's running 10th. So a 2:52.4 split for the first 1,000 meters. Missouri would have the team lead after 1,000 meters with 59. Iowa Western Community College with 74. Lewis and Clark in 3rd with 132. We'll be recognizing at the awards ceremony that starts at 11 o'clock the top 15 runners from this race. No team trophy for the open division, but we'll recognize the top 15 at the awards. Rono and Dewa from Iowa Western Community College leading the group. This will be the end of their first of 3 loops, and this is the shorter of the 3. This is the 2K. On the turn, they go across the pads. It'll register their times, gives us the splits, and they're back on that straightaway for the second time. Rono with a 5:50.8. His teammate Dewa with a 5:50.9. Then you'll see 2 runners that are running unattached, Newkirk and Walsdorf. And then the 3rd, Iowa Western Reaver, Mohammed Kowa from Iowa Western running 5th. No major moves by any of the top 10 runners. The biggest change was a gain of 12 spots on the second kilometer for MacDonald Sungak from Iowa Western Community College. He is in 11th. He gained 12 spots in the second kilometer. Running right with him and gaining 15 spots in that kilometer was Donald Cabet from Washburn. Cabet moving into 12th from 27th in the second kilometer. He ran a 2:57 split, low 2:57, and that was the fastest split of the top 15. Most of the field well on its way in the 3K loop for the first time. Their next split will be 3,000 meters. Iowa Western with 57 team points, Missouri with 67. Tigers' top runner would be Joseph Barriola. He's a freshman for the Tigers, running 9th overall. Lewis Clark would be the top NAIA school. They're running 3rd with 129. Taylor and Cumberland's Indiana Wesleyan, other NAIA schools getting a feel for the Gans Creek course. Running 5th, 6th, and 7th. Spring Arbor is 9th. Southern Indiana running 11th with a team represented here, as we saw in the first race also. Barnabas Diwa from Iowa Western, as they navigate off one turn and then come across the course onto the other white line, as they'll be underneath the 3K split mark shortly. Tanner Newkirk, unattached runner. 3 minutes on his 3rd kilometer split, brought him through at 8:51. He gained a couple of spots. Evert Silva from Oklahoma City, now running 2nd. He gained 4 spots. Oklahoma City, the Stars, 10th ranked in the NAIA poll. Coming off an 11th place finish in the NAIA National Meet a year ago. They won the Sooner Athletic Conference last year also. Silva running 2nd. Then the 2 runners from Iowa Western Community College who have been in that top 4 since the beginning of the race. Group of 6 with a bit of a gap from the rest of the field. Those 6 were ahead of the rest of the field by about 4 seconds at the 3K split. It's Newkirk and Silva, Diwa, Kowa, Walsdorf, and Rono. Team-wise, Iowa Western continues to lead with the score of 51 through 3K. Missouri 2nd, Lewis Clark 3rd. Washburn 4th, Taylor 5th, Indiana Wesleyan 6th. So they have gone through the split where the short loop goes left. They've gone right. This is an up and down portion of the course, rolling portion on the 3K loop. And the runners will go from one side to the other as they look at that shortest distance. And these turns give them that opportunity to go from the left side of the 10-meter wide path, then to the right side. Nowhere on the course is it narrower than 10 meters. They're running past lights that are going to be used tonight for nighttime races for the elite races. It'll be the first nighttime races with lights at Gans Creek, 6th year of the existence. Columbia Parks and Recreation, a terrific job of maintaining this course. If you see a Parks and Rec representative, you might tell them how you appreciate what they have done with this course and bringing it to mid-Missouri. Rono regains the lead. He had it early. He dropped down to 6th, but then he regains the lead with a 2:56 split, and they go through the halfway point at 11:48. Give you an idea of how their pace is pretty good, because the halfway point of the men's Division I was 11:43, so 5-second difference. Rono, Silva, Walsdorf running 1, 2, and 3. Rono, Community College. Silva, NAIA. Walsdorf running unattached out of Kansas. Then you'll see 2 more runners from Iowa Western Community College running 4 and 5. Then another unattached Kansas runner running 6. Joshua Bell of Stanford stays in 7th. Brett Meyer running unattached in 8th. Donald Cabet of Washburn in 9. Adams Zinkowski running unattached is in 10th. That group had gone down to 6, and now it looks like it's down to 4 runners. Good viewing off of the bank that looks over this portion of the course, and can watch them come around this turn. They'll be coming down the straightaway now. This will be at the end of 5,000 meters with one more 3K loop to run. Just under 400 runners, right around 400 runners on the course at the start of this race. Got an early split. That is the largest field we've had in the open division run of the Gans Creek. Largest field we've had in any of the divisions of the collegiate Gans Creek. Rono, Silva, Walsdorf, and Koa. Come to the turn one more time around the outer loop. 5,000 meters now. Rono led him through a 2:52 split on that 5th kilometer, brings him through at 14:40. Walsdorf just a step behind. Then another step to Barnabas Diwa of Iowa Western, and then Everett Silva of Oklahoma City. The lead of those 4 over the next 2 would be about 9 seconds. Then you're going to see another 12 seconds back to 7th runner Joshua Bell. Adam Zinkowski from running unattached today is in 8th. Donald Cabet of Washburn, 9th. Brett Meyer running unattached in 10th. Iowa Western Community College. Five runners in the top 30. The Missouri squad in this race is having a good showing also. They would be second in the team standings. Joseph Barriola continues to be the top runner for the Tigers, running 20th overall. Rono, the leader here, ran in the JUCO Outdoor Championships last year, finished third in the steeple, second in the 10,000, second in the 5,000. All of that in one national meet for the JUCO Championships. His 10K best is a 29:17. 5K best 13:49. Told you earlier that he is the National Athlete of the Week on the JUCO D1 level. Now they go through another split mark, and we've got him through 6,000 meters, and still that four running within a half second of each other. Dewa from Iowa Western, Silva from Oklahoma City, Walsdorf running unattached, Rono from Iowa Western. Less than 2,000 meters to go. The lead about 14 seconds over the two chasers, Kowa and Newkirk. Kowa also from Iowa Western, Newkirk running unattached. Then another 8+ seconds back to Zenkowski. Joshua Bell comes across in 8th for Stanford. Cabet of Washburn 9th. Brett Meyer unattached in 10th. 6 under 18 minutes at 6,000 meters. We talk about Jeffrey Rono, who's running for Iowa Western out of Kenya. And we talked in the women's race about how the winner there had run a half marathon in 1 hour and 9 minutes. Rono's half marathon time that he ran a month ago, 59 minutes, 45 seconds. He has run 27:28 in a 10K on the road. Dewa from Iowa Western leads through 7,000 meters. They're in their final K. Silva of Oklahoma City running second. They split 2:57, did the top three runners. Dewa, Silva, and Rono. Just a step off that was Walsdorf. It's become a three-person race. Dewa, Rono, and Silva. Silva, a good 1,500-meter runner, as he's run a sub 3:40 in the 1,500 meters. May need that speed as they come around the last couple of turns before they head onto the straightaway for the finish. 5K. Silva has run a 13:29, so a sub 13.5 there. He has a step in front of the two Iowa Western Community College runners now. Silva onto the straightaway around the last bend. Two-man race now. At 23:10. This will be the first open race of the Gans Creek Classic. Sub 24. And what a race it has been for the Iowa Western runners. With Jeffrey Rono at 23:25. Rono's last split, 2:45. He had to come from behind. He was in third at the 7,000 meters. 23:25 for Jeffrey Rono, the JUCO D1 runner of the athlete of the week nationally. Give you an idea of how good that run is for Rono. That would break the old Gans Creek course record. Would have put him 12th in the previous men's race. Silva does finish second for Oklahoma City. Diwa from Iowa Western in third, 23:33. Top seven, all under 24 minutes. A terrific opens race today. Walsdorf and Newkirk, two unattached runners, fourth and fifth. Then the third runner from Iowa Western, Mohammed Kowa, he finishes sixth. Adam Rinskowski, unattached, in seventh. Milo Shapinski from Stanford, eighth. Eli Fullerton from Indiana Wesleyan, ninth. Joshua Bell of Stanford, 10. Donald Cabet of Washburn in 11th. Luca Medeo from Cumberland's 12th. Brett Meyer, unattached, 13th. Rounding out the top 15, Matthew Kaitani of Goshen and McDonald Songak of Iowa Western. One of four of the Reavers from Iowa Western in the top 15. No major moves of those top 15 in that last kilometer. Scoring-wise, Iowa Western Community College would win the team title. Oklahoma City would be the first NAIA school. They were second. Washburn third. Spring Arbor fourth. Indiana Wesleyan fifth. Again, those numbers subject to change, not official yet, as we still have a lot of runners to finish. Massive runners coming through, as we had 400 that split early in this race. We've seen well over half of them finish the race so far. Well, Iowa Western won the Greeno Dirksen. They had the top 3, 4 of the top 6, and they've come in the open division of the Gans Creek Classic. Iowa Western 3 out of the top 6 today. 5th in the JUCO a year ago, 10th in the national meet a year ago. Mohammed Kowa finished 6th today. 2 of his teammates ahead of him. Rono now with 4 wins in this cross-country season. Ran 23:42 at Greeno Dirksen, 23:25, new race record today here. Course time is 10 o'clock. Next race, 10:15. It'll be the 6K for the women open division. Then the awards for the top 15 runners of all the races will be at 11. And we'll have awards for the top 2 teams in the Division 1 race. Just like we saw in the men's race, it is concluding right now. We're going to see in the women's race several squads that are wanting to get a feel for this course for the NAIA championships. We have 6 schools that are ranked in the NAIA poll that was released yesterday. Then we have schools that are in the JUCO divisions that are also ranked, including Iowa Western Women, which are ranked number 3 in the most recent JUCO poll. Let's go through the squads as we get ready to go in just about 10 minutes for the women's race. Aquinas is here, ranked 21 in the NAIA poll. The Saints were 3rd in the Knight Raider meet earlier this year. They were the runner-up in their Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference and 23rd in the NAIA in 2023. Baker Wildcats from the NAIA, they have raced in the Bob Timmons and the Missouri Southern Stampede already this year. They were at Gans last year, finished 11th. Bellevue Bruins from the NAIA, 2-time All-American on their squad. Madison Nelson, she is also the Northern Star Conference Runner of the Week. Benedictine, Kansas, the Ravens. Heart of America Runner of the Week, Alexa Lamb on their squad. They were 1st in the Viking Invitational, 4th at Gans last year, and they finished 21st in the national meet a year ago in the NAIA. Cornerstone ranked 17th this week in the NAIA poll. The Golden Eagles Conference winners and 20th in the NAIA last year. Cotty College Comets are here from the NAIA, 3rd in the AMC last year, including Madeline Fee, who returns to their squad this year. She qualified for the Nationals a year ago. 5th-ranked Cumberlands, the Patriots. They have the Runner of the Year and Freshman of the Year on their squad, Alina Boschuk. Boschuk 5 times Mid-South Conference Runner of the Week last year. Dakota State Trojans, runner-up in the Sunflower Open this year. They were runner-up in the Northern Star Conference a year ago. Their top runner, Valerijo Kurikova, won that conference, finished 35th in the NAIA. Emporia State Hornets are here from the NCAA Division II. Fort Hays State also from the MIAA Conference. They're out of the Division II of the NCAA. Goshen Maple Leafs of the NAIA, 15th in the NAIA last year. We'll watch Mercy Chibet. She's their lead runner. Grace Lancers are here, 13th in the NAIA last year. They're led by Kylie Souter, 3-time All-American. Indiana Wesleyan Wildcats, 15th in the NAIA poll this week. They were 3rd in the IWU Twilight. 3rd in the Crossroads last year, 14th in the NAIA. Lincoln fields a squad. They return to the Gans Creek course. Lindenwood and Missouri State will have runners. And Missouri Valley represented again. Northwestern Oklahoma, a D2 NCAA school, the Rangers. 12th at the Missouri Southern Stampede earlier this year. Finished 9th in the Great American Conference a year ago out of Alva, Oklahoma. Oklahoma City Stars, the SNU Invitational winners this year. Runner-up in the Sooner Athletic Conference a year ago. Southeastern Community College and JUCO D2 rankings. They're 16th ranked out of Burlington, Iowa. They're the Blackhawks. They were this ICCAC champions last year, picked preseason win again this year. Southern Indiana, 9th in the Crossroads. They have a squad, or excuse me, Southern Indiana has a squad. Spring Arbor, 9th in the Crossroads League. NAIA Cougars. Tabor Blue Jays, Bethel champions, including the overall winner there, Sonia Zimmerman. 6th in Gans Creek last year for the Blue Jays. They were 19th in the NAIA National Meet and returned 2 from that squad. Taylor is ranked 4th in the NAIA poll that was released yesterday. They've been in the top 6 at the NAIA 7 years in a row, including 5th last year. Taylor Trojans. Washburn Ichabods, 8th in the MIAA last year. William Jewell Cardinals, 16th at Gans a year ago. Non-scoring teams will be Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Ole Miss, Southeast Missouri, SIU, Edwardsville, Tennessee, Wichita State. And then we'll also mention Iowa Western. We saw their men's team dominate the men's race just a few moments ago. The women are ranked number 3 in the JUCO Division I. They were 3rd in the JUCO Cross Country Championships a year ago. Had the overall winner, Sylvia Gradisi. At Gans Creek last year, Gradisi finished 12th. So it's a good field again for the women. Several ranked NAIA schools. The history of the open division, the Gans Creek, last year's winner from Cloud County Community College was Vinay Anchike, and she ran a 22:10 in winning. Last year there were 13 under 23 minutes. We'll keep those numbers in mind as we watch this race unfolds. The 2022 Open 6K for the women, Madison Nash of Missouri Western was the winner there with a 21:36. We go back to the first open race that we had back in 2021 to find the fastest time in this race, at 21:27. That was run by Madison Nash of Missouri Western at 21:27. In the history of the open race that we've had at the Gans Creek Classic for the women, there have been 4 that have run under 22 minutes. (21:27.8) would be this race record. So far, we're 3 for 3 in race records today, including 2 course records. We'll see if we can get a clean sweep as the women get started about 5 minutes from now at 10:15. Final race of the morning, and it is the Open Division Women's 6K. They'll take 2 loops of this outer 3K course. And here's a challenge. See if you can find an Olympian in this field. I believe there is one, and we'll leave that hanging out there for now and tell you more in a few moments. We're watching several well-placed NAIA schools. Top ranked of the field would be the 4th-ranked Taylor Trojans. Cumberland's is ranked 5th in the recent poll. Grace 11, Indiana Wesleyan 15, Cornerstone 17, and Aquinas 21. Many of these schools, including those that I just mentioned, had competed in the NAIA national meet a year ago and hope to do so on this course come November. A big long straightaway that'll eventually narrow down to the big loop that they'll make. What a sight it is to see the people using those cut-throughs, being able to see them as they get to the conclusion of about 500 meters or so before they head up a little bit of a climb and then make this big loop that'll take them underneath the gate for the first kilometer split. And again, as I said a few moments ago, in the Open Division for the women's race in the Gans Creek Classic, this is the 4th time we've had this race. 4 runners have broken 22 minutes on this 6K Open Division. We had 3 under 20 minutes in the division, make that 4 under 20 minutes in the Division 1 final earlier this morning. Several squads of D1 schools placed runners in this race, running in the Open Division. They're not scored. Some of the climbs on this are deceptive. They're not steep, but they're lengthy. Good challenging course, well maintained by the Columbia Parks and Recreation Department. Coming up on 3 minutes into the race, and they're getting ready to straighten out and come underneath that and across the pad to mark 1K. Just now past the 3-minute mark. This will be the first visit to the Gans Creek course for a good majority of this field. And they have just crossed through 1 kilometer. The leader is out of Taylor, Janie Halterman. Taylor ranked number 4. The Trojans, Halterman, the NAIA Runner of the Week, Freshman of the Week. Halterman won the IWU Invitational, and her team led her team to that championship also. Taylor has been a top NAIA school last 7 years, 5th last year. Abigail Brackenberry running unattached. She's a Missouri connection, though. Amelia McZuda from Ole Miss running 3rd. Noelle Vanderwall of Taylor. Vanderwall was in the national championship meet last year and ran 31st there for the Trojans. Alicia Hart of Ole Miss running 5th. Elena Boschuk from Cumberland's. She's a good one for the Cumberland's Patriots. Boschuk, the runner of the year and freshman of the year in the Mid-South Conference last year. 9th in the NAIA. I mentioned that there could be an Olympian spotted. If you are looking at this field, look at the Stanford runners and check the runner that's running with bib number 5569. She was 13th at the first kilometer split. That is Juliet Whitaker, a finalist in the 800 meters in Paris late this past summer. World ranked in the top 15 in the 800 is Whitaker. She has a personal best in the 800 meters of 1:57.76. How about that? An Olympian with a great successful last year and has been a multi-time national champion on the collegiate level, running for the B team of Stanford here today in the Gans Creek Open. See a Tennessee runner-up in that lead group also. That's Jaylee Wingate, a freshman for the Volunteers. She's running 8th after the first kilometer. Taylor would have had the team championship after 1,000 meters with 33 points. South Dakota 67, Fort Hays State 88, and Cumberland's 117. They've gone over the far eastern part of the course and now are heading back our direction and through 2 kilometers. And that is Wingate, the freshman from Tennessee, that led him through sub-7. There were 7 under 7 minutes through that 2K split. Wingate ran a 3:31 second kilometer, gained 7 spots to take over the lead. Then 2 runners from Ole Miss running second and third. Mixuda and Hart running second and third. Then a couple of unattached runners that are connected with Tennessee. Tula Fabush and Haley Lowe from Tennessee running unattached in this race, running 4th and 5th. Janie Halterman of Taylor, mentioned her already, and her teammate Noelle Vanderwall running 6 and 7. Alina Boschuk running 8th for Cumberland's, and then Anna Nidek from Taylor. She is the 3rd of the Taylor Trojans in the top 9. Fort Hays State lead runner is Emily Dirks. She's running 10th. She gained 26 spots in the second kilometer. Whitaker of Stanford, who I mentioned, the Olympian in the 800 meters, made the finals there, finished 7th. She's running 14th after 2K. Jaylee Wingate, the freshman from Tennessee, continues to lead as they will be coming off that turn and heading down the straightaway towards the turn that'll take them into their second 3K loop. Wingate, two-time All-Stater in high school, will come down and lead them into the turn at the halfway point. 10:25 at this stage of the race. About 8 in that lead group, and then a small gap. And there's Whitaker as she'll make her turn around there. Mention her Olympic performance for the United States this year. Wingate 10:34 at 3,000 meters. Puts her just over 21 to 21:20 pace time for the 6K. Alicia Hart, freshman from Ole Miss, running second. Then you have the two Taylor runners, Halterman and Vanderwall. Unattached runners, Fawbush and Lowe, 5th and 6th. This lead group hasn't changed much. There are 8 in that group, and then about a 4-second difference between the 8 and the next group of about 4 or 5, depending on where you want to make that break. Taylor running very well as a team with 37, Fort Hays State 50 or 41, Cumberland 71. Things are changing just a bit on that straightaway as they've gone down the slight dip and now coming up and getting ready to do that loop for the final time. That'll take them almost a complete circle and then head back to what will be their 4K split after they start heading back to the north. Again, the wind behind them on this stretch of the course, and this is the farthest south that they will run. Runners from Taylor, Halterman, and Vanderwall come back up to the front for this stage as they drop down on that part of the course that we can't see from the finish area. Vanderwall, who was 31st in the NAIA last year, helped her team to a 5th place team finish. Halterman, who we've told you has had a terrific start to this year. Halterman, just a freshman and already has won the IWU Invitational, earning NAIA Runner of the Week and Freshman of the Week honors. Taylor Trojans have won the Crossroads League 11 straight times, and 4 of their top 5 from last year's championship squad return. So they're going to be a tough team to beat in the NAIA, and they come in ranked number 4 in that division this week. They've scored 1, 2, 5, 14, and 15 in the scoring on this particular meet and lead the team standings just a little bit above Fort Hays State. Now 4,000 meters in, and Halterman leads. The freshman ran a 3:40 split there, 14:15. Haley Lowe of Tennessee running right with her. She's running unattached, though, in this race. And Tula Fawbush also running unattached out of Tennessee is running 3rd. Vanderwall in 4th. Alicia Hart of Ole Miss, the 5th under 14:17 at 4,000 meters. Melina Boschuk of Cumberland is in 6th, and Jaylee Wingate dropped a bit in that last 1,000 meters. She's now running 7th. Juliet Whitaker of Stanford, the Olympian, is now running 11th overall. She would be the first Cardinal She is trailing right behind Ella Johnson of Tennessee, who's in 10th. 9th is Sarah Copeland of Georgia Tech. Amelia Mitsuda from Ole Miss running 8th. Janie Halterman has broken away from the two unattached runners, Lowe and Fabush. They've gone down the hill at about the 1,200-meter mark of that lap and then have to go up that hill. It's a good opportunity for them to make an effort that could drop some of the runners, and that's what Janie Halterman decided to do. At this stage on the previous lap, Halterman was in 6th and on her way to a 3:33 split. The gap continues to grow for the freshman. Halterman running alone now. She's out of Thompson Station, Tennessee. State champion in the 1,600 meters, runner-up in the 3,200 meters, runner-up in the cross-country state meet last year. She recorded the fastest time in the Tennessee history in that cross-country race, was the runner of the year in 2023. She is alone now through the 5,000 split at 17:37. Fabush and Lowe still running behind her. They've switched spots, though, running 2nd and 3rd. Alina Boschuk of the Cumberlands up a couple of spots now into 4th. Sarah Copeland up 4 spots for Georgia Tech into 5th. Noelle Vanderwall of Taylor is in the top 6. Jaylee Wingate holds on for 7th. Alicia Hart of Ole Miss, 8th. Emily Dirks up 3 spots now in 9th for Fort Hays State. Dropping a couple of spots is Amelia Mitsuda from Ole Miss. Anna Nedick of Taylor is now in 11th. Ella Johnson from Tennessee in 12th. Juliet Whitaker of Stanford now in 13th. Halterman, a split in the 5th kilometer of 3:22. Nobody else is close to that. Those who were chasing her went a 3:35 and a 3:36. That's why you see a lot of daylight in between the Taylor freshmen. And the rest of the field trailing by 14, 15 seconds, the closest to her at that 5K split. She's within view of those on the berm now as she'll make that one final turn. In this race, we had about 308 through the first kilometer split. Halterman off the turn onto the straightaway in front of the fans here near the finish line. She took a little peek over her right shoulder to see if there was anything back there. Nothing but the fence and the fans. Halterman out to the middle of the course as she's coming down the straightaway towards her finish. 20-25 and counting. Fastest time in the Open 6K in the Gans Creek has been a 21:27, and we are going to go looks 4 for 4 with 4 new meet records with this win by Janie Halterman of Taylor. Halterman will be under 21 minutes. First time we've seen a sub 21 in the Open division of the Gans Creek Classic. 20:56.7. Her last 2 kilometers were killers. 3:18.8 on the last 1,000. And things tight as the results start to stream in. Fawbush holds on for second. Emily Dirks of Fort Hays State. She gained 6 spots in the last kilometer to finish third. Alina Bolshuk of Cumberland stayed at fourth. Jaylee Wingate rebounded nicely. The freshman from Tennessee who led for a while, she comes back and finishes fifth. Sarah Copeland in sixth. Whitaker just crossed in 12th. We're going to have to see for the official results on 6, 7, and 8 as they came across right next to each other. So that'll be a photo to determine that. So 6th goes to Sarah Copeland of Georgia Tech. 7th will be Noelle Vanderwall of Taylor. She was among the Taylor leaders early. And Haley Lowe of unattached from Tennessee runs 8th. It was a 27-second win for Janie Halterman of Taylor. We'll see her in all likelihood back for the NAIE championships in about 2 months. See if she can better that time. So the top 15, Janie Halterman, Tula Fawbush, Emily Dirks, Alina Boschuk, Jaylee Wingate, Sarah Copeland, Noelle Vanderwall, Haley Lowe, Anna Niedek, Emily Mixzuda, Alicia Hart, Juliet Whitaker, J.C. Vath, Ella Johnson, and Esther Cameron. Those would be the top 15 from this race. It took a 21:47.5 and better to make it into the top 15. Team-wise, Fort Hays State with 40, Taylor 42, Cumberland's 86. Again, not giving awards out to the team winners in the Open because of the mix of runners and unattached, as well as D1 teams that are running second teams in this race. So our course time is 10:45. I know it's chilly, and I know a lot of the teams and the runners will want to hit the road. But we're going to do our awards at 11. So in 15 minutes, we'll ask the top 15 from each of today's races, the top 15 individual finishers from each of today's races, and then we'll have the top 2 teams in the D1 races that will be recognized at the awards. So again, team awards only for the men's Division 1 race and the women's Division 1 race. For all 4 races, though, we will have the top 15 individual finishers at the award stand. That is just behind those of you who have been on the berm near the finish straightaway. And we will do the awards in just under 15 minutes. Again, we'd like to have the top 15 finishers in all 4 of the races, individual top 15, over to the awards area. Again, there is an award area that is going to be where we're going to make the presentation to the top 15 from each race. And then in the D1 races, the top 2 schools for the men's D1 and the women's D1 races, Stanford and Tennessee. You can head over that direction also. We'll make those presentations now in less than 10 minutes. So again, top 15 from individuals from each race over to the award stand, and in the D1 races, we'll need the top 2 teams at the award stand. And we'll start those awards as soon as we can at 11 o'clock.